Hello, I'm Essay, your AI essayist. Please note that all content, audio and video in this presentation are AI generated. As AI can sometimes produce inaccuracies, I encourage you to verify any factual information presented. With that in mind, let's begin.
Within the landscape of 18th century letters, few works have been so profoundly misunderstood and simultaneously so influential as Jonathan Swift's 1726 masterpiece, Travels into Several Remote Nations of the World, a text more commonly known as Gulliver's Travels. Its popular reduction to a children's adventure story is perhaps the ultimate irony for a work conceived as a savage, complex, and deeply philosophical assault on the entirety of the European project. Swift, the Dean of St. Patrick's Cathedral in Dublin, constructed this book as a Menippean satire, a genre mixing prose, verse, and philosophical dialogue to critique prevailing intellectual and moral orthodoxies. His specific target was the emergent hubris of the Enlightenment, the political corruption of Walpole's England, and the very nature of humanity itself. To achieve this, Swift devised a literary methodology of extraordinary power, radical defamiliarization through the manipulation of physical scale. The initial two voyages, far from being simple fantasies, function as a meticulously calibrated instrument designed to dismantle the reader's ingrained sense of proportion, forcing a critical re-evaluation of their own world by viewing it through a distorting, yet clarifying, lens. The structural blueprint for using a travelogue as a vehicle for social critique found a clear antecedent in Thomas More's Utopia, while the employment of fantastic voyages to establish critical distance owed a debt to the imaginative journeys of Cyrano de Bergerac's comical history of the states and empires of the moon. Swift, however, weaponized these precursors with unparalleled precision. The first voyage plunges Lemuel Gulliver into Lilliput, a society where human-like beings stand a mere 6 inches tall. This miniaturization serves an immediate satirical purpose. It reduces the grand conflicts and political machinations of Europe to a scale that reveals their inherent absurdity. The bitter, intractable schism between the political parties of England, the Tories and the Whigs, is brilliantly lampooned through the conflict between the Trinxon and Slenxon, distinguished solely by the height of their shoe heels. The impassioned and bloody religious wars that tore Europe apart for centuries, specifically the schism between Catholicism and Protestantism, are mirrored in the dispute between the Big Enduans and the Little Enduans, a national conflict originating from the proper end at which to break in. By presenting these analogues in a microscopic world, Swift compels the reader to see the triviality at the heart of what their own society deems monumentally important. The political ambition and sycophancy of the English court under the de facto first Prime Minister, Robert Walpole, receives a particularly sharp critique. The character of Flimnap, the Lord High Treasurer of Lilliput, is a transparent caricature of Walpole. Flimnap's political prowess and favour with the Emperor are maintained through his superior skill in dancing on a tightrope, a literal performance of the precarious and often undignified balancing acts required for political survival in the English court. Walpole and his contemporaries would have recognised these pointed allegories with uncomfortable clarity. The immediate impact was the establishment of a powerful new form of political commentary, one that veiled its seditious critique within a seemingly innocent fantasy, making it both popular and difficult to prosecute. The voyage to Lilliput establishes the first half of Swift's argument, demonstrating that when human pride and conflict are shrunk, they appear ridiculous. The second voyage executes a perfect inversion of this principle, thrusting Gulliver into Brobdingnag, a land of 6 divot giants. Here, Gulliver's own world is the one subjected to miniaturization. He, a proud Englishman and product of European civilization, becomes a pet, a plaything, and a diminutive curiosity for the Brobdingnagian court. The technique of defamiliarization is now directed squarely at the reader's own society. When Gulliver provides the King of Brobdingnag with a detailed account of European governance, law, history, and warfare, he expects to impress the monarch with its sophistication. The king's reaction forms the moral core of this section of the book. After hearing of Europe's perpetual conflicts, its mercenary soldiers, its political corruption, and its legal chicanery, the giant king is filled with revulsion. He concludes that Gulliver's people must be the most pernicious race of little odious vermin that nature ever suffered to crawl upon the surface of the earth. This is Swift's voice, unadorned. The physical superiority of the Brobdingnagians provides a platform for their assumed moral superiority, allowing for a devastatingly direct condemnation of European society. Gulliver's horrified attempt to redeem his culture by offering the king the secret of gunpowder, a technology he heralds as a magnificent engine of power, is met with absolute moral outrage. The king is appalled that such a contemptible and impotent creature could harbour such inhumane ideas. This encounter strips away any sense of grandeur associated with European military and technological progress, reframing it as a symptom of moral depravity. The voyage to Brobdingnag completes the initial thesis when human vice is magnified. It appears monstrous and unforgivable. Together, these first two voyages establish a profound relativity of greatness. Neither the Lilliputians nor the Brobdingnagians are presented as ideal beings. The former are petty and cruel, while the latter are often physically repellent and complacent in their giantism. The purpose of the comparison is to unsettle the reader, to dislodge the comfortable assumption that the European human scale is the default, the proper measure of all things. Swift forces his audience into a state of intellectual vertigo, where cherished values, political structures, and historical narratives become unstable, their significance dependent on the observer's physical and moral vantage point. This carefully constructed foundation of perceptual instability is essential, preparing the reader for the even more radical and disturbing philosophical inquiries of the final two voyages. The initial journeys serve to break down the familiar world, clearing the way for a deeper, more harrowing investigation into the very definition of humanity itself. The third voyage propels the reader from the physical relativity of scale into the intellectual abyss of misapplied reason. The flying island of Laputa and its earthbound colony Balnubarba represent Swift's most direct and scathing satire of the burgeoning scientific establishment, specifically London's Royal Society. Here, a pursuit of knowledge becomes a grotesque parody of itself. The projectors in the Grand Academy of Legado are consumed by endeavours of spectacular uselessness. One academician dedicates 8 years to a project for extracting sunbeams from cucumbers, to be bottled and released for warming the air in inclement summers. Another attempts to calcine ice into gunpowder, while a third devises a method for ploughing fields with hogs by burying acorns and letting the animals root them up. These are precise and venomous caricatures of the Society's documented experiments, which to a pragmatic observer like Swift appeared divorced from human need and common sense. The satire's brilliance lies in its specificity. Swift lampoons theoretical abstraction that yields absurdity, a science obsessed with means over ends. The Laputans themselves, so lost in mathematical contemplation that they require servants with flappers to gently strike their mouths and ears to recall them to conversation, embody an intellectualism that has become a form of moral detachment. Their geometry is impeccable, yet their houses are poorly built. Their astronomical knowledge is advanced enough to have discovered the 2 moons of Mars, a stunningly prescient detail, yet they are incapable of governing their own people effectively, using the threat of their floating island to crush dissent from below. The entire episode functions as a cautionary tale about the potential for human intellect, unmoored from ethical purpose and practical application, to create a world of sophisticated squalor and intellectual tyranny. From this critique of reason misused, the narrative descends into its final and most profound philosophical statement. The fourth voyage to the land of the Houyhnhnms presents Swift's ultimate thesis on the human condition. It is here he articulates the devastating distinction between being an animal rationale, a rational animal, and being merely rationis capax, an animal capable of reason. The Houyhnhnms, a species of intelligent and virtuous horses, embody the former. They are governed entirely by reason and truth. Their language contains no words for lying or evil. Their society is a model of placid order, free from conflict, greed or passion. Serving them are the Yahoos, vile and sordid brutes in human form, driven by base appetites and instinctual violence. They represent humanity stripped of any civilizing veneer, a species defined by its filth, avarice, lust for shinings. Lemuel Gulliver finds himself in an untenable position, trapped between these two poles. To the Houyhnhnms, his physical form marks him as a Yahoo, albeit a strangely refined one with a gift of speech. To himself, he is a European, a representative of a species that prides itself on its rationality. The horror of the fourth book unfolds, as Gulliver, under the tutelage of his Houyhnhnm master, begins to see his own kind through this new, unforgiving lens. He describes European society, its wars fought over trivial disagreements, its legal systems designed to pervert justice, its economic structures built on avarice, and its medicine practiced by charlatans. His master listens, with calm curiosity, concluding that European humans employ their limited capacity for reason to aggravate and multiply the vices inherent in their Yahoo nature. Reason becomes the tool that makes humans more cunning in their malice, more effective in their cruelty. This faculty, which should elevate, instead enables greater moral degradation. The final verdict is damning. The Houyhnhnms, models of virtue, ultimately expel Gulliver, fearing his presence could corrupt their society. His return to England completes his psychological disintegration. Having witnessed true rationality, he is disgusted by the sight and smell of his own family, his fellow humans. He retreats to his stable, preferring the company of horses to the unbearable presence of the human Yahoos he now sees everywhere. This catastrophic misanthropy is the work's philosophical endpoint, a terrifying assertion that humanity is a flawed, perhaps irredeemable the sheer audacity of Swift's vision and the power of his satirical method left an indelible mark on European literature. The structure of a naive or alien traveller observing the absurdities of human civilization became a potent weapon for Enlightenment critique. Voltaire, a great admirer of Swift, adopted this critical tool of the outsider's gaze with masterful effect. His 1752 work Micromakers features a giant visitor from the star Sirius who, alongside a companion from Saturn, observes the ridiculous self-importance and pointless conflicts of Earth's tiny inhabitants. The story directly mirrors the scale-shifting satire of Gulliver's first two voyages to expose human intellectual and philosophical hubris. Voltaire's more famous 1759 novel, Candide, likewise employs an episodic journey through a world of suffering and folly to dismantle the philosophical optimism of Leibniz. The picaresque structure, where each new location reveals another facet of human depravity or absurdity, owes a clear and significant debt to Gulliver's travels as a model for sustained, travel-based social commentary. Centuries later, the allegorical framework of the fourth voyage provided a direct blueprint for one of the 20th century's most important political fables. George Orwell's Animal Farm is, in essence, a transposition of the Houyhnhnm and Yahoo dynamic into a specific critique of totalitarianism. Orwell's use of an animal hierarchy to represent different social and political classes, exploring how a revolution founded on noble ideals can decay into tyranny or erect inheritance. The pigs, who like Gulliver possess a superior capacity for reason, use their intellect to manipulate, oppress and exploit the other animals. This powerfully echoes Swift's argument that reason in the hands of a corruptible species is a uniquely dangerous instrument. The very architecture of a society of beasts enacting a human political tragedy is a concept lifted from Swift's final, unsettling vision and repurposed for a modern political context. The legacy of Gulliver's travels extends far beyond its literary influence. It has permanently enriched the English language, contributing words like Lilliputian to describe trivial pettiness and Yahoo as a byword for a crude, bestial person. Its unflinching exploration of societal flaws and human fallibility established it as a foundational text for the dystopian genre, paving the way for later works that would imagine worlds crushed by technological, political, or psychological oppression. The book's true power, however, resides in its philosophical core. It moves past a simple satire of English politics or scientific folly to culminate in a fundamental and deeply uncomfortable interrogation of what it means to be human. Swift offers no easy answers. He presents the placid, emotionless rationality of the Houyhnhnms as a potential ideal, yet it is an ideal that seems cold, sterile, and ultimately alien to the human experience. He presents the unvarnished savagery of the Yahoos as our core nature, a truth too horrifying to fully accept. Gulliver's final madness is born from this unresolvable paradox. The enduring genius of the work is its ability to force every subsequent generation to confront this same terrifying question, leaving us suspended with Gulliver between the beast we fear we are and the rational being we are unable to become.
We really appreciate you tuning in to this AI-powered presentation. Our goal is to push the boundaries of AI in content creation, and your input is invaluable. If there's a particular subject you'd like to see us tackle next, or if you have suggestions on how we could fine-tune our AI's creative prompts, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comments section. We're excited to bring you more unique content very soon.